let's move forward and see how did we get to this situation, really? How did we get to have our subconscious mind run 95% of our daily behaviors? How? Well, first and foremost, because when we were children, none of us had the conscious mind developed until around 7 years old. So children are born without conscious mind, not without consciousness. Yes, consciousness, it's this energy, thought energy that exists, and it's in everything. Yes, but the conscious mind is rational part of our mind. We were not raised, we were not born with. That's why children put their hands in the fire. That's why, because they do not have this. They don't have fear. They don't have so many things. We're not born with that. We're born with like a clean, almost a clean slate, because like I was saying, there are studies showing that actually this subconscious programming starts even before we're born. But mostly we don't have much there when we're born. So look at this image that I created. Yes, let's take a look at the mind of a child. As you can see, yeah, the subconscious mind doesn't have a cover. So in the previous image, we had the conscious mind here at 5%. In this image, there is no conscious mind. We have subconscious and we have supraconscious. Supraconscious, it's huge now because we are connected as children. Children always are so well connected to their higher self. They talk to their angels. Children are amazing. Unfortunately, the society changes us, and based on what we are exposed to, the society, literally based on parents, family, friends, educators at kindergarten, school, yes, based on what we're watching, what books we're allowed to read, social media, because now every kid almost has a tablet. Based on all this environment, yes, there are programs in the subconscious mind that are formed. And they keep forming because the conscious mind that's missing now, this is the first 7 years of a child's life, yes? It starts forming after a 7 year, but it continues to develop until around 28 years old. That's why teenagers are not, the most clear, logical people in the world, because they're still developing their conscious mind. They're still discovering who they truly are, yes? So this is why our subconscious mind controls our life, because when we were kids, it had no filter. We don't even have to teach children anything. They absorb everything they see and hear around. If you have children and you keep them in the room with you when you are fighting with your spouse, when you have discussions about lack of money, guess what the child is going to catch and create, because it's repetitive exposure, yes? It's going to be again and again and again and again and again and again for almost every day in the first 7 years, or more or less, yes? And those are very strong programs. All these programs of limitations are creating the self-image and the perception of self-worth of adults. 99% of adults are still, unless they're changing something, right? That's why you're here, to change something, to become aware of the situation. 99% of adults are functioning based on the self-image that was created in their conscious mind when they were children. If the love was conditioned by anything, and many people say, like my grandma used to say, yes, she used to say, oh, but I worked so hard to make this plate of food. I worked so hard. I was all day in the kitchen. You have to eat everything from your plate, otherwise you don't love me. When we are conditioned like that, we're always understanding. We don't realize it because we're kids, and we don't realize when we say it, because we say things to our kids too. But we are starting to form this program. So I invite you to pay attention to how you talk to your parents, to your children, or not literally to your children, but how do you talk to other adults around your children? What do you allow your kids to watch and to hear? There are Disney shows, there are different shows, and I'm not like saying anything bad about any company, but some shows have a scarcity mindset. Some shows show that, teach children that it's okay to be living in lack of, because especially when it's about religious connotations, right? I grew up with this thought in the Orthodox Church that, being modest and not having enough money, it's actually a noble thing. Because you are going to heaven if you don't have enough, because only the humble, poor people go directly straight to heaven, right? So identify these limitations, identify what is your self-image based on. For example, I identified in myself that there were lots of voices in my head and I didn't know who they belong with. And, I'll tell you this secret. Many times when I do mindless work, mindless meaning what? Meaning that my conscious mind, it's not, even though I'm awake, it's during the day, right? My conscious mind is now working at that point. My subconscious runs the show and I let it do it. Like when I wash dishes, when I vacuum, when we drive, many times we drive on autopilot, like literally from inside. We don't think of things. We think maybe like if we listen to a book or we look at traffic and stuff, but if you go on a highway, many times you are driving on your subconscious mind. You are not paying attention to what's going on. And that's when you can identify voices, these programs, this paradigm, like Bob Proctor is calling, right? You can identify the limiting beliefs. And so one day when I was vacuuming a while back, I kept hearing this voice saying, you're not allowed, you're not allowed. And I turned off the vacuum and I was like, says that? Like, it seems to be such a familiar voice, but it wasn't mine. And so because that's when, when you catch it, you start becoming self-aware. And you're like, where is this voice coming from? Like, who's this voice? Who is talking in my head, pretty much? And then by taking a little time and just literally closing my eyes and just asking my mind, tell me again, yes, I brought from the subconscious mind into my conscious mind, into my awareness, present awareness. I brought these memories. And this voice, you're not allowed, was actually my grandmother's voice. My grandma raised me until I started school. So that was literally the first 7 years of my life. And she was very overprotective, and she will always say, you can't do that, don't do that. And it was not a bad thing. So parents and grandparents don't do these things to us because, they're bad people or they don't love us. They do it out of love. And also they do it out of programming, their own programming. So because that's what they've learned from their mothers and fathers and so forth. And so of course my grandma was doing this with love and care, right? Like, don't cross the streets, don't do this, don't do that, you're not allowed. Not that you can't, really, it wasn't that you can't, it was in Romanian, nu poți, yes, nu ai voie, actually, nu ai voie, that means you're not allowed. And so it wasn't that I wasn't capable. It was just that there was this barrier. So I grew up with this, like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't do that because I don't know, am I allowed to do that? Like, it was always in the back of my head and I wouldn't realize that. So I invite you to, identify these things. There are many, many possible limitations. They can be tricky to identify, but we are here to help you with that. And based on these limitations, we perceive who we truly are. If there are these limitations, there are numerous of them, 5, 10, 20, right? They all create my self-image. Well, okay, in my case, it was easy. It was like, oh, I identify the voice is not mine. You know what? I love my grandma, but it's not my voice. And I'm going to put this aside. But now the problem is you put it aside, but what do you replace it with? Because if you don't replace it with anything at the right moment, in the right environment, because the subconscious mind wants to keep you in the status quo. It's that mind that wants self-preservation. It wants to keep you in what you know. Why? Because getting out of what you know, it's uncomfortable. So we stay where we're comfortable here. So every time, you know, when the medium presents itself as being prosperous for this programs to come out to the surface and kind of sabotage us, yes, they will do it unless we have a different, stronger program on top of it to literally deactivate it. You need to deactivate. You cannot erase. These programs in the subconscious mind are not erasable. They exist there. Like I said, nothing gets lost. It's all in there. They are just there. Okay, so we'll stop here, and the next slide, it's going to talk more about your conscious mind and how you can use it.